That sounded kind of mad. Today I'm going to talk about what it actually feels like to move abroad, because I don't want to say these videos don't exist, but I've seen far more videos of people that have moved abroad and it's gone suspiciously well. And I'm not saying that can't happen, because it can. Like I'm sure it happens frequently, and it should do. Like I'm glad this happens to people, but I just want to be transparent about an experience, or the general experience I had with moving away. And there's good and bad things that happen, and well, there's positive and negative feelings that happen when you do something like this, depending in the way that you do it, and I guess the scenario that you're in when you leave. Because, like I said, I'm in Canada now. Prior to leaving the UK, I was in a bad way. Like, and I sometimes don't like using the words good and bad, because like sometimes like experience is experience, and I've got experiences in my life that felt bad at the time, but now contribute to my understanding of the world and are helping me channel my wisdom into things that I care about, and ways in which I think I can make an impact in the world. But I felt extremely negative. Like, I felt extremely low, depressed, anxious. I felt fragile. I didn't feel like I was prepared for the. I didn't feel like I was prepared for the world, and that the challenges that it was bound to present they were going to crush me. Because I can't really go into detail about certain things, but there's things that had happened at this point in my life where I felt completely fucking blindsided, and that I wasn't prepared for them, and that I didn't have the mental fortitude or maturity or emotional skills to deal with what had come up. And it led me into such a horribly negative position, like a dangerous and scary position. And I guess it's painful to think that other people might be in that scenario. And obviously there's an aspect of me making videos like this that's a solo endeavor, and I just want to do it, and I want to do creative endeavors and be on YouTube. But there is part of this video that I think can be really valuable, especially for the person that might be in similar circumstances. So like I said, prior to leaving the UK, anxious, depressed, angry, fragile, feeling like my life was not going how I wanted it to, and I felt the entire world on my shoulders. And I'm sure this is a common feeling if you've clicked on this video, but it's pretty horrendous. Like, it's hard to feel like that's a positive experience in the moment. I also felt like nothing around me resonated anymore. Family, friends. I'm not saying I didn't. I had an extremely loving family and a really positive friendship circle with people that I still love to this day and deeply care about and enjoy spending time with and talking to. But at this moment in time, the position I was in, my life that was surrounding me did not resonate with me anymore. And I feel like it kind of sounds romantic if you phrase it like that, but it doesn't feel good at all. It feels very lonely and isolating, and that, especially coupled with the feelings that I had about being depressed, anxious, and fragile, it doesn't feel like there's a whole lot you can do about it. And I'm here to tell you that that's not true. There's a lot you can do about it, but we'll get into that. with regards to my surroundings not resonating, I was also, I guess, I was kind of, I felt a lot of shame about who I was at that point in time. Like, not that I hadn't really done anything that was worth. I wasn't like there was nothing that I'd done for say that was worthy of shame. Like I wasn't someone engaging in shameful things, but I just felt shame, and that's a very complex emotion to have, and the source of it, I still truly don't know. I've got a better understanding of it through therapy and reading and growing and relationships and whatever, but it's a very complex feeling, and it really does feel like it can feel like it's your fault, which it's your responsibility because now you've got to deal with it. Good luck. Um, I say that as a joke. Um, it's your responsibility, but it's probably not your fault. Like in my scenario, I can now see that it was definitely my responsibility to deal with because it's my life, but it wasn't. The shame that I was feeling wasn't my fault, although it felt like it was in the moment. So that's the fucking riddle of shame. And I'd got myself into such a position where the people around me were doing their best to be supportive and loving, and they were loving and supportive, and I can't fault anyone for kind of how they were around me, but there becomes, especially if you experience these things for a long time, and it's not just a brief period of time where you people clock that you're not being yourself. Like it had become almost it had almost become my personality that I was a bit negative and down and a bit anxious all the time, and that's kind of terrible because then the people around you that expect that from you will subconsciously keep you there. And like I said, it's not their fault, but it's a complex dynamic. Um, and my solution to this, I'm sure there's many, was just to leave. And Canada wasn't necessarily. I didn't think I'm gonna go to Canada. It's gonna fix me. It was just I wanted an adventure, and I intuitively thought that I needed to grow out of this shell that I'd created that was meant to be this protective shell that I'd grown from the experiences that I had that actually wasn't serving me at all. This shell was inhibiting who I was and who I was becoming, but the shell had become thick and suffocating. So I just needed to grow out of it, and Canada was meant to help me get there. And it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't really anything that stood out too much about Canada. The decision to go somewhere else was it was mostly arbitrary. I just wanted to go somewhere that was going to be a solo experience. I went on my own, and I knew there wasn't many other people that had come this way. Like I didn't want to move to another part of the world where I was going to see people that were typically living around the corner. Um, Not that there's really anything wrong with that, but the type of growth that I needed to go on a solo adventure, and I needed to be away from people that were going to remind me of the person that I'd become. I don't really know how else to describe that, because they were like the my environment and the world around me had become just a perpetual trigger. Like it was just this extremely painful mirror that was constantly held up to me, and there was just so many reminders and daily prompts that I wasn't where I wanted to be, and it was unbearable, to be honest, which is why I left. I wanted to leave. I left in March 2023. I wanted to leave March 2022. Like I'd already decided, but I was trapped in uni. I then had to get out of being in an overdraft, so I had to work as a postman for how many months? Too many months. just to get myself out of debt, and then into enough of a surplus that I could actually make a decision to fly to another country and attempt to make a life there. So that was my circumstance. It was a little bit messy to begin with, but there's been worse. There's been worse circumstances that people have made it out of. So don't feel disheartened if your circumstance isn't as fortunate as that one. And as I was approaching, so I'd made the decision now that I was going to leave. I knew I was going. I knew typically or generally when I was going. But there was a lot of things I didn't know. Like I didn't know where I was going to end up completely. I'd kind of circled one area in Canada. I was like, I'm going there. Spoiler, it was Banff or Whistler. Like outside looking in, I felt like it was Banff or Whistler. There's so many places in Canada that are worth your time that I couldn't foresee prior to going in. And like the person that I was before going to Canada was someone that wanted to have a ski season, ski all the time, make a shitload of friends that were outdoorsy and active and fun and cool. And I guess I wasn't aware of. I think I might just press the button. Hang on. I wasn't aware of what. I wasn't aware at the time of. Fucking hell, I've ruined that. The person that I was prior to leaving the UK was someone that wanted somewhere like Banff or Whistler and the lifestyle that those things would help me create. And I'm not saying that these places are truly magical places, and they really are. They've got the drawbacks, of course. Anywhere does, but they are amazing places. Like I'm not trying to bash them in the slightest. But I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. But I was wrestling with so much uncertainty prior to leaving because it is uncertain. You don't know where you're going to end up. You don't know what job you're going to get. Like if you do it like me, like I went there with 12 days booked in a hostel, no job, about £3,000 British in my bank account, give or take a couple of £100. And I had no idea what was going to happen. And I wanted it that way because I wanted to surrender to the unknown, and I wanted to rebuild trust with myself and rebuild trust with the world. And I didn't know, intuitively I felt the only way that I could do that was to do something that was extremely uncertain, like traveling or moving somewhere that wasn't a familiar environment with familiar faces and familiar habits and routines and places that I could go. Like I needed an adventure. And it was a genuine, it wasn't a I wanted, it was a I fucking needed it. Like I was in a very bad way, and I dread to think what would have happened if I didn't go when I went, or if I'd just stayed where I was. It wasn't looking good for a long time, put it that way. I also doubted that I'd picked the right location. And with the knowledge that I have now, this is within reason kind of bullshit, because obviously you're not flying realistically, unless you're a journalist or something, you're not flying to the middle of Iran right now. Like there's certain places that you probably should avoid. I probably don't need to say that, but you know, there's loads of places that I don't have on my radar that will be perfectly reasonable places to start a journey or start an adventure. Canada was just, I guess, somewhere that I thought I could. The visa process was fairly simple. It was English speaking. I knew I could get a job pretty quickly. and just sample something fresh and quick without too much assimilation. Um, but it was still the uncertainty and adventure that I was wanting, and like the outside perception of Canada, like what a fucking place. Um, so that was where I was at, but I did have my doubts that I'd picked the right spot, and that there was potentially somewhere else better that I could be going, or that I was making some error that I couldn't see, and that might be true, but I I think it's I think it's pretty arbitrary where you go. Within reason, of course, I think it's pretty arbitrary because you're a magnet for the experiences that you need to have for growth, and that's quite a complicated thing. But I found that there was a sequence of things that happened that allowed me to confront certain things that were holding me back, and it wasn't that it was an automatic, oh, I've now had this experience, I can now become the person that I want to be. Like, it took work. Like, do not get me wrong, like, it took work, and I had to navigate these experiences that did come up, and people that I met, and circumstances that happened. Like, it will demand work from you, but that's kind of the point. That's where the growth comes from. And not all these were bad experiences. Like, a lot of them were positive experiences, but there was always the commonality between all of these was that the growth required like persistence and effort and attention. um, and yeah, there's just so much uncertainty prior to leaving that there's so many things that you want to try and plan and that you want to try and take control of. And I think it's a bit of a waste of time because that's not the point. Like, if the point is to surrender to the unknown, the more you take control of, this is how I was kind of speaking to myself at the time, the more you take control of, the less the universe can fill in the gaps for you, and the less magic you can kind of experience in real time, because the less unknown there is as part of your adventure, the less of an adventure you're going to have. Like, I'm not saying fly to Canada with no insurance, no money, no, like, there's certain things that are helpful to do. Like, I had enough money that was required for my visa. I didn't have a flight home. I had a bit of a buffer in a hostel that I'd already booked. So like, I had an A to B, but I didn't have a to B to C to D to E to, you get the point. But point being, the uncertainty was the point. Like, that was the whole reason. And I wrestled with it so much, and I feel like something that would have given me so much peace in that moment was that the uncertainty is the fucking point. That's why you're going. Like, you are going so that when something comes up, you deal with it in real time, and you didn't know it was coming up. You couldn't plan for it. You weren't prepared for it, but it happened, or you meet a person or whatever, and that brings up feelings, and it brings up whatever's holding you back, and then you can choose to confront that and deal with it, or you can choose to stay the same. Because a lot of people, even though they've gone and done all these fancy things, they've traveled, they've moved to a different country, then they've set up life in a different way, they can still possess the same very thing that they left their original life for. Because it's very subtle, and it's from my experience, at least, it's been difficult to grow out of the things that were holding me back. So don't feel like, from an outsider's perspective, everyone that's moved away and moved abroad has it figured out. I still have not got it figured out. There's some things that I figured out, but there's a lot of people that are just running. And to actually confront what it is that you're going through and deal with it is a very courageous thing to do, and not everyone's got the bollocks to do it. So if you find yourself wanting to do that, just be kind to yourself and know that not everyone is as brave as that. Um, and you will become a rare individual for doing that. So I guess that's something that you can prepare for. Um, what else? I think this is just more of the same. I had insecurities about money, routine, loneliness. I was already lonely. I already didn't have enough money. I was already bored of my routine. The very things that I was anxious about losing were the things I was kind of excited to get the fuck away from. Like, I knew there was more money to be made out there in creative ways. I knew there was people out there that were going to make me feel less lonely at the phase of life that I was at. I knew there was new hobbies and things that I could pick up and new experiences that were going to make me feel like I didn't need a routine to get a consistent dopamine hit just to get me through the day. Like, the very things that were keeping me trapped and comfortable. I say comfortable in quotation marks because I didn't feel comfortable. Like, I felt pretty horrendous, to be honest. But I guess it's still called a comfort zone. The very things that were keeping me comfortable were the very things that I wanted to get the fuck away from. And then I was like mentally trying to wrestle with leaving those things behind. It's like, well, that's the point. That's why we do this. And if it comes to be that you miss sewing and you miss counting calories and you miss running at 6 a.m. in the morning and you miss, I don't know, having 5 pints on a Friday, you can still do that and you can circle back to it. But if you're fed up with it now, it might be that you've outgrown it. Maybe. Just saying. That was my experience. Okay. So we've gone through how I felt before leaving, how I felt as I was approaching leaving. Now we're on to the real juice. How to stay? No. Now we're on to the real juice. I'm just going to double check my camera. See if I've got enough storage. Yes. Get in. Now I'm going to talk about not what happened when I left. Maybe I'll use some contextual stories, but how I felt when I left. When I first left, or I'll talk about the couple of days prior to leaving. The couple of days prior to leaving, they were like the biggest roller coaster I've ever experienced. Like, fear, excitement, expectation, rejection, depression, anxiety, anger, fragility, anti-fragile. Like, I swear to God, I experienced the entire emotional spectrum in about 3 days, and it was very exhausting. And I'll just reference every other experience I've had that has kind of produced this internal reaction from me, is that every time I'm about to make quite a big leap in growth or a big jump, I think some people call it a quantum leap. I quite like that, so we'll call it a quantum leap, because you'll experience rapid growth when you do something like this, because you kind of have to. But there's a lot of internal resistance, and it's resistance, or it's like the resistance is a signal that the growth is coming, because in order to get through the resistance, like, you have to be strong enough to get through it. So feel it and just carry on is how I would advise to deal with that, because that's kind of what I did. I don't really know if there's any mad skills you've got to have to get through it. I think it's just be stoic. Like, you're gonna feel weird and scared and apprehensive and anxious, and I wasn't even like there was a period of like there was like 2 days before I set off. I was like, I'm not even excited. I don't even want to go. This is pointless. I felt apathetic. I was like, it's gonna be shit. There's there's no rhyme or reason to it. Like I think your mind just throws everything at you to make you try and bail because you're about to do something scary, and rightly so. Not everyone's gonna do it. You know, it's meant to be scary. But saying that, as soon as I started taking action, like my original home is in Leeds. Oh, sorry, Wakefield, which is near Leeds, and I flew out of London, so I had to get like the train down to London, stayed a night in London, and then flew out of London the next day. Flew to Calgary. But as soon as I started taking action, like as soon as I was on the train, as soon as I was in the hotel, as soon as I was just like double checking my suitcase and stuff for like flying the next day, because I'd taken action, a lot of my anxiety and nerves had subsided because I was now in it. I wasn't just like looking at it from an outsider's perspective. Like I'm now in the process of doing the brave thing that I once was shitting myself at the idea of doing. Um, so yeah, like as soon as you actually start taking action, you no longer want to be that guy. Like you've become that guy, and you kind of you do get a hit of confidence just by taking action because you're now fucking doing it. Where you're now like, well, there's no point worrying now because I'm in it, you know. So the nerves began to subside, and I want to say in the first couple of weeks I was optimistic, but simultaneously vulnerable. Like you will feel vulnerable, like you are exposing yourself to a new area of the world, new people to either be friends with or not be friends with, new experiences, a job, like multiple jobs that you might have to apply to that you're probably going to get rejected from or accepted from. Like I applied to maybe 30 and I got accepted at one, didn't even take it in the end, but just it's common practice. And everyone, this is an important point, everyone that's done this kind of thing has probably felt almost exactly the same. Like they were probably all shitting themselves. They probably all thought, "What the fuck am I doing?" They probably all thought, "This isn't going to work," or "I'm going to be lonely forever," or "I'm not going to meet anyone that's going to be on my wavelength," or "My job I'm going to find is not going to be what I wanted. It's not going to fulfill me." Just ignore that. Like that's just part and parcel of doing something like this. Um, what else? I think I already talked about this, but you're a magnet. You are a magnet for experiences um, that will trigger you, and this can either trigger you into growth, or it can trigger you into kind of just experiencing the same thing that you're trying to get away from. Like I didn't trust the world because I'd experienced, I guess I could say indirectly, a really kind of terrifying betrayal within family. And this was now something that existed deep within me, this feeling of not being able to trust people that I thought I could really trust. Like betrayal's the fucking worst. Like um, as soon as someone betrays you trust that you thought could never do that, you will never look at people the same. I'm not saying you can't heal from that because I have, and like I don't. I this like my girlfriend, for example. I've never trusted anybody more than the people that are in my life right now. But this was something that I had to grow from, and I knew it was something that I had to deal with. I didn't really have the tools or the skill set to deal with it in the time that I was struggling with it. And this was something that I was aware of as I was leaving, but I didn't know how that was. I didn't know how I was going to heal from it. I just expected the world was going to provide me with some answers. And initially, it provided me with some fucking problems. Like, it provided me with a huge, stinking example that some people can't be trusted. Like this, I swear to God, I'm not going to go into detail. I talked about it on a podcast, and I don't think it's out yet. But if it's out by the time I post this, I'll plug the contact. I'll plug the podcast because I talked a little bit about it. But it's story for another day. because it's a long one. But I immediately experienced quite a profound betrayal, and I guess I kind of clocked it as it was happening in real time, and it didn't uh, I guess trigger me as much as the one I experienced like in the first place that caused the initial wound, we can say. But it was quite disheartening to witness because I was like, oh fuck, like that hasn't helped my view of the world. Like that's kind of just reinforced what it was that I'm, I'm trying to heal. And point being, you will be a magnet for something that you're trying to get over, and there's a small chance that the world will present you with a circumstance where it's like it's I don't know if it's meant to do anything. Like it could just be a law of attraction thing. It could be God sending you something, and it could be complete coincidence. I can't say with 100% certainty that it's any of those, but how it felt for me was it was an opportunity to grow from and dig into what happened or what I did that contributed to this happening. And I had a role to play. Like it takes two to tango, and there was things I did that didn't help me because I was naive and I didn't have the skill set to deal or to foresee something like this happening. I now do, and I now like possess quite an attuned skill set of being able to clock people that are trustworthy and aren't trustworthy. And this is something that I think is one of the big takeaways of traveling. Like your nervous system is such a fucking internal compass. It's hard to put into words. You've just got to feel it out. And through various experiences, seeing different people, being around different environments, you'll learn what makes you feel safe, what makes you feel triggered, what is like a positive sign, and what's I guess a negative sign. Um, but yeah, it felt like a bit of a fuck you in the beginning, and it temporarily felt disheartening, but it caused me to, like I said, dig into how I was accountable for the scenario that had happened, and I was partially accountable for it. I'm not accountable for why this individual was the way that he is, but I'm accountable for letting certain things, for being, I guess, part of it for so long. Um, where now I'm just like, I don't have to deal with you. I know what comes from you. I don't have to deal with that, and you can generate so much peace from having that skill set. But it's something I guess you have to build through experience. So that was like you may, I'm not saying you will, but you may experience um, something that feels like a setback, but it's only a setback if you make it a setback. It can be an opportunity for growth and rapid growth. Like shortly after me dealing with this circumstance, I met the person that I'm with now, my girlfriend, and I've never trusted anyone else more in my entire life, and she's healed me in so many ways um, that I could have never done just through uh, casual interactions with the world or superficial experiences. Like it took me meeting her and having the experiences we've had together to make me feel so safe within myself and within my perceptions of the world, because I've managed to choose someone and let someone into my life that makes me feel one, incredible, and two, extremely safe and confident. And that's, you can get there, but it might come after a setback. And I'm not saying you should just expect to get fucked immediately. Like I don't think you should anticipate that, because I think if anything, like you should maintain high high frequency, high faith. You just positively anticipate that things are going to work out, and they will. but it will take some work because it took some work for me. Um, for better or for worse, right? Bear with me. You will meet people on this adventure. Sometimes you'll just meet people and it'll be just a friendly interaction. It'll be strangers, and then you might have a superficial conversation. You might have a deep, meaningful conversation. But there's certain people that will really stand out on your journey. I'm gonna try and stop saying your, because I'm essentially just projecting my entire experience of traveling, because I'm sure everyone's gonna have a pretty different experience, but this is what's happened to me. There's people that I met on this journey that I met them at the exact right time. Like, there's people that cropped up at the fucking most insanely, profoundly perfect time that I couldn't plan that. And this began to like reinforce my trust, or I guess my intuition, that I needed to like surrender to the uncertainty, because you can't plan for certain things. And there were certain people that I met at certain times that gave me so much knowledge and wisdom and connection, and like it was insane. It was magical, and that was a product of me putting myself out there. Um, and it was like all of the kind of best moments of my life to this day have been as a result of something I didn't expect, and doing something that was kind of terrifying to begin with, and then it just working out way better than I ever thought it could. Like, for example, I'm I intend to make another video about this area in particular, but I flew into Banff initially because, like I said, outside looking in, I thought it's Banff or Whistler. There's nowhere else I have any interest in going. That's how naive I was prior to coming into the country. And these places are magnificent. I'm not saying they're not, but I ended up being in Banff for 3 weeks, being like, this place isn't what I need right now. It was too much partying. It was too much similarity to what I was trying to get away from. Beautiful nonetheless, but it wasn't what I needed at that moment. I then ended up in Churchill, that I didn't even know existed prior to going to Canada or arriving in Canada. And Churchill, for reference, is the polar bear capital of the world. It's on Hudson's Bay in Manitoba, way up north. It's in the subarctic circle. It takes a 2-day train to get there, or a very expensive flight. I would take the train. And I ended up working in a polar bear tourism lodge for 6 months. And that's when I met the girlfriend. That's when I met these crazy, adventurous people and characters that really, really helped me on my journey, and restored a lot of faith that I guess I didn't have at the time. What else? I don't really know if I finished what I was saying there, but I've kind of lost my train of thought, and I'm just going to move on to the next one. Another. I thought about this just before I started recording this, and I don't know whether it's actually something that's worth living by as a rule, but it helped me synthesize what I was trying to say about control and surrendering to things that are out of your control. Like, a good way to think about it is let go of control in the macro. So this is like existentially, like your health, for example. 10 years down the line, something catastrophic might go wrong, and there's, provided you've taken care of the micro, which is you train frequently, you look after what you put in your body within reason, you have fun, but you are looking after your health in a way that provides the lifestyle that you want and prioritizes, your health and your future. Provided you've done that, you can't really control whether you're gonna get a cancer or a heart condition or whatever. Like if you've done everything that you can kind of you can't eliminate the anxiety that something bad and large might happen with your health, but you can eradicate the what if. Like when something, if it inevitably did happen, you can be like, "Ah, I wish I'd have trained more, or I wish I'd have looked after myself more, or I wish I'd have controlled my diet more, or whatever." Like, let go of controlling the macro, controlling the micro. And for me, this looked like I'm going to keep my integrity first and foremost, and that's going to be my compass that I use to navigate all these experiences. Like, I'm going to be true to myself, and I'm going to try and, to the best of my ability, be myself and try and be honest with myself about what it is that I want, how I can be of service to people without being people pleasy. And that was something that I could control because I could control my decisions, how I reacted to things. Um, and I always then felt like I had a compass, like I didn't feel completely lost, provided that I had my integrity on the surface. What else? My health was a good example. Like, it took a bit of a dip, I won't lie, in the first couple of weeks of being in Banff. I think that's relatively normal, and I think that's actually fine. Like, you meeting loads of new people, alcohol is a good social lubricant. It's it wasn't what I needed, or I guess it was what I needed to get to the next stage. So I'm not going to advise you not to do that because it's exactly what I did. Um, but my health took a bit of a dip in the beginning because I wasn't on my regular gym routine. I wasn't eating as healthy as I normally was because I didn't have my own kitchen. I didn't have the supermarket I was familiar with. I didn't have the gym I was familiar with. Didn't have a car to begin with. So I guess I was walking in more places, but I was drinking a lot, and like I said, it's not fine or not fine. Like, it was just what I felt like I needed to do at the time to fit in, meet people. It ended up providing me the knowledge that I wanted to go somewhere else, so it was helpful. Um, but I still trained when I could. I still ate within reason what I could to make me feel good. I still limited my exposure to certain substances. I still prioritized stuff like getting sleep and like trying to have meaningful experiences, spending time in nature, stuff like that. Like, there's things that I was doing to not have a super tight grip on my day-to-day whereabouts. Like, I was open. I was trying to be as open to the adventure as possible, but I've become aware over time of what things are helpful for me to do, which is keep my body in check as much as I can, like train, spend time in nature, um, expose myself to things that are difficult as frequently as I can. Trying to think if there's any other examples of controlling the micro. Like, if I'd have just sat in the hostel all day, every day, just playing fucking Flappy Bird or something, I'm probably not going to land myself a job. Could be wrong, but it was very unlikely. Um, so I had to put myself out there, and like I said, I applied for like 30 jobs. I also realised that on my resume I put the wrong phone number down, and it's probably why I didn't hear back from so many jobs. But I applied for like 25 jobs with the wrong phone number, then amended my resume, applied for more jobs, um, applied for more jobs, and then I eventually landed one. And then I eventually ended up leaving and not even starting it in the first place because I got ill. Then I met someone else that was going somewhere else. And I was like, that sounds more fun. I'm going to do that. And I pivoted. And that's the benefit to go in on your own because like you're not having to manage someone else's expectations, and you can really just you can grow at your pace, not at your combined pace. I think that's probably especially depending on what it is that you're going traveling for. Like, presumably it's growth. For me, it was anyway, and just I wanted to become someone that I was proud of and have an array of different experiences. It would have been for me in that circumstance inhibiting for me to go with anyone. It might have made me feel safe in the short term, but I don't think it would have helped me have the experiences that I needed to feel like I could stand on my own 2 feet and generate a feeling of safety within myself. Um, I just don't think I could have got there with having someone by my side at that point in time, especially when I was leaving. I think you're obviously going to meet people down the line, like I did. I met loads of people down the line, spent loads of time with people. Like I wasn't on my own for a long time at all. But yeah, I think you get the point. Anything else? Probably my final point, because I'm starting to lose. I don't know. Just juice for this monologue. I don't know how long this has been going. This could have been like an hour. Um, this sounds kind of cliche, but you're always becoming. Like, I have, in this process of leaving the UK, for context, I've now spent time in Banff. I've been to Churchill. I cycled across Canada with another British guy. Talked about that in the other video. I have ran the length of the UK. Ended up having to come home, and whilst I was at home, I was like, "Fuck it, I reckon I can do this." Ended up doing it, and then I've sampled loads of jobs, and a lot of the things that I've now done were things that I wasn't aware that I could ever do prior to leaving the UK. Like, I didn't know that I could become that person. And the feeling that I have now is that there's still someone that I'm not yet, that, I still want to become, but I'm far more proud of myself now, and I have a lot of self-respect, far more self-esteem and confidence about who I am, what I want in this world, how I can be of service and value to other people. Like, just being able to say that was something that the idea of it was so valuable to me prior to leaving the UK, because I didn't feel like that at all. Like, I felt fucking worthless and terrible almost all the time. Where now I I'm still looking at the wrong part of the camera. Fuck. I still, like I said, I still haven't become. There's no like big finale person I've become that I'm now not striving for anything else or being more or becoming more. Like, I'm still in a state of becoming, but the important part now is that I have already become someone that I'm proud of, and I think I could be wrong, but I think I'm pretty confident in saying that's what we all want. Like, we want to feel proud of who we are, confident that what we have to bring to the table is valuable, whether it's just who you are as a person or the skill set or whatever. But ideally, collectively, you bring value, and I feel like that person now. Partially why I'm recording this video, because I feel like I've actually got some useful insights to provide the world with, and I guess this channel may end up becoming advice that I wish I'd have had a few years prior, to help me get through points in my life where I felt stuck and lonely and a bit helpless. Because a lot of the times it was a mirage and it wasn't a true. The feelings were feelings of like, they were very real, and they painted my entire world, and they still do. But my feelings towards the world are much more positive now. So I feel like there's much more opportunity, more abundance, more opportunity for connection, and more opportunity for positive experiences, where everything back then felt like an obstacle. And an opportunity to make me feel embarrassed or ashamed or like I wasn't good enough or that I wasn't the person that I wanted to be. Like that's done it's done a complete 180. Still have some days where the old self presents itself, but I can now say it is an old self. I've managed to transcend it and keep it fucking down there. Um, and I think that's unreal. Like that's exactly what I wanted, and I do feel proud of. It's not really the achievements. It's how I can now show up for people, and how I can. It's just I guess just my relationship to myself and the world now is just so much better than it was, and I want people to have that because I think that's selfishly that's the world I want to live in. Like I want everyone to feel good about themselves, confident, full of enthusiasm and optimism because world could do with a little sprinkle of that right now. Probably more than the sprinkle. Probably them scoops that come in like those mega way super. What the fuck am I trying to say? Those like mass gainer shakes where the scoop's like a fucking McDonald's cup. Could do with a scoop full of that um, positivity dust, just generous helping on the world. So perhaps I can contribute. Hopefully I can. Hopefully this mic's still working. It's peak times when your mic's got more hair than you do. It's actually not even windy anymore, so I don't really need this on. But anywho, I've now got severe dry mouth. I've run out of water. I'm a little bit hungry, and we are 45 minutes away from England attempting to beat Norway in I think it's the quarterfinal. And usually I don't really care about football, but now that I'm not really depressed anymore, I can just enjoy things. Like that might sound crazy to some people, but the people that have experienced that, you'll probably know what that feels like. And I'm gonna go watch England playing a sport I don't really care that much about, but I'm going to enjoy it because I just can. So, thank you for listening, and I'll see you when I've got more useful things to say.